What up, guys? Miguel here from Tech, and the Vivo V30 is the slimmest phone powered by a 5,000 milliamp hour battery in the industry to date. Boasting a 6.78-inch curved AMOLED display with shot alpha glass protection, the V30 is a modern minimal beauty. But don't let that fool you. This phone is powered by a Snapdragon 7 Gen 3 chipset, so this phone is no pushover by any means, performance-wise. So how does it stand out? The phone's Aura Light ring is hard to ignore, giving end users plenty of opportunities to have studio-esque shots on the go. Among its many uses are portrait shots, food photography, and even vlogs with the V30's micro movie mode. Now, for the real question. Is the Vivo V30 5G living up to the hype it's riding on? Let's find out. Before we start, for reference, our review model came with 12GB of RAM and 256GB of internal storage. The Vivo V30's back panel design drew inspiration from Southeast Asian culture, with its colorways coming in petals, white, and green sea. These cultural design cues are evident in the patterns around the back panels that remind us of, well, this one reminds us of clouds and water. After all, Southeast Asia is known for white beaches and crystal clear waters. Moving on, it's pleasantly thin at 7.45mm and easy to carry around. The V30 already has points in ergonomics for how comfortable it is to hold. After all, it's marketed as the lightest phone with a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. The V30 also has this sweet curved display that makes the phone feel nice around the bezels. However, how the texture of the back panels may vary. This green sea colorway feels smooth and glass-like, while the petal's white colorway comes in a more matte kind of finish. This white one is definitely nicer in our opinion, but it does get a bit slippery depending on how sweaty the user's palms are. But it's alright, I like it. I mean, it's all good. Personally, we aren't fans of the glass-like panel with this colorway because of how easy it attracts smudges and, well, fingerprints for that matter. So if you're someone easily bothered by this, keep in mind. If not, well, everything should be quite peachy. For buttons and ports, the volume rocker and power button are situated here on the right side of the phone. And at the bottom, we have a USB Type-C port, a single downward-firing speaker grill, and a dual nano SIM card slot. Meanwhile, at the top, it features a noise-canceling microphone and branding that states Professional Portrait. Sadly for some, there isn't a 3.5mm audio jack present on this device. Also, during our call tests, we actually found out that the V30's call audio comes from a small slit here within the top bezel of the display. Next, we have the camera island at the back panel. The upper part has a 2.5D glass lens, which is 0.35mm thick, housing two sensors for its dual camera setup. Below it is Vivo's Aura Light, seen from last year's V29, which used to be in the vein of a more traditional ring light. Both parts of the camera island are quite thin, but still protrude from the body. Last but not least, the Vivo V30 has an IP54 rating for dust and water resistance. This should definitely protect the phone from accidental splashes of water and tiny debris, which means the phone is not rated for water submersion at all. Overall, I'd say Vivo did a good job in fleshing out the V30. Sure, we might not be a fan of glass-like back panels, but it's something subjective that people could work around, no problem. The build is good for the most part, so we wouldn't be worried about accidentally bending the phone either. I could demonstrate that. Yeah, it seems fine. I think if I pushed harder than this, I know it doesn't look like it, I am pushing very hard. I think that's when it would bend, but no one would go crazy on bending their newly bought phone, right? So the V30 has a 6.78-inch 2K curved AMOLED display that supports HDR10+ and is protected by shot alpha glass. This phone also has an 89.9% screen-to-body ratio and a pixel density of 453 pixels per inch. The display features a refresh rate of 120Hz and a peak brightness of 2800 nits. And with these numbers, I can assure you that the V30 provides users with picture clarity even outdoors in the sun. Moving on, I must say the mono speaker on the V30 is pretty good for what it is. The writer of this review usually listens to music with a Bluetooth speaker at about 50 to 60% volume. And to his surprise, once the wireless speakers ran out of juice, he noticed that the V30 single downward firing speaker was louder than his Bluetooth speaker at 60%. We would say that putting these two, the display and the mono speaker together, has tied up well into a pleasantly satisfactory multimedia consumption experience. A well-rounded display coupled with a pretty rich single speaker made for an enjoyable Avatar: The Legend of Korra bit. As for biometrics, the V30 has pretty standard options for modern means of security. These are inclusive of pattern, numeric, alphanumeric, fingerprint, and face unlock features. While these features surely won't surprise most of anyone who's had a smartphone in the past 10 years, I must say the in-display fingerprint sensor does have a cool watery-ish animation. So like I said earlier, the Vivo V30 has a dual camera setup here at the back. This setup consists of a 50 megapixel main sensor and a 50 megapixel ultra-wide lens with a 119-degree field of view. I should also mention that the main sensor offers Vivo's hybrid image stabilization, which combines both OIS and EIS technologies for better photo clarity when handheld shooting. And as for video capabilities, the rear camera setup can shoot up to 4K at 30 frames per second and 1080p at 30 frames per second with gyro EIS enabled. In front, the V30 sports a 50 megapixel selfie shooter. It can also shoot videos at the same resolution as the rear cameras, but with the absence of gyro EIS support. The cameras are quite nice. Both were able to provide depth and clarity in our shots, but we'll leave it to you guys to judge. Check out our sample shots right now.
I'm using the front camera, so yeah, so share me your thoughts about the camera capabilities of this phone.
If you ever find yourself in less than favorable lighting conditions, the Aura light can come in handy when needing a quick diffused fill light for subjects. It gives some much appreciated brightness, adding detail to your portraits, group photos, and food adventures. Why food adventures, you ask? The V30 has extra options apart from the usual panorama slow-mo, time-lapse, and pro modes in its camera app. If you go into the other camera modes on the far right, you'll see cool features for food photography, supermoon, astro, snapshot, and dual view. And on top of that, Vivo provides end users with options to add grid lines for better framing. They can also put in customized watermarks with their signature if you're not keen on using Vivo's own. As for video features, vloggers can rejoice as the V30 has a micro movie option for taking shorts on the go. The camera hardware and interface are pretty impressive overall. It feels smooth, clean, and user-centric. I'd highly recommend for users to tinker around with the V30 to see what they can do with it. And making our way into software, the Vivo V30 runs on FunTouch OS 14. This software is geared towards a unique user experience through extensive personalization features made for Vivo's smartphone. First off, you can customize your display and home screen in these settings, as well as tinker with animations in dynamic effect. This lets end users personalize screen animations, transitions, and even display resolution. Out of the box, the V30 is set to a Full HD Plus resolution, most likely for better battery efficiency. but we were able to bump it up to a clearer 2800 by 1260 or 2K resolution. As for themes, the software provides a dedicated app with free and paid options to fit users' preferences. For its user interface, our writer for this guy really appreciates FunTouch OS for how neat and clean everything is presented. He likes how the drop-down menu is inclusive of nifty features like a calculator, dark theme switch, and an ultra game mode, but of course, these are customizable. All things considered, the consensus for the V30 under this category passes with flying colors, and in my opinion, FunTouch OS has greatly improved since its infancy. We even get a smart sidebar that refreshes to show users their most used apps and is also customizable. The Vivo V30 is powered by last year's Qualcomm Snapdragon 7 Gen 3, a 4nm chipset that features an octa-core processor capable of up to 2.63 GHz clock speeds, paired with an Adreno 720 GPU. Our review unit comes with 12GB of RAM with RAM extension features that can be toggled on or off. When turned on, it provides users with an additional 12GB of virtual memory. For internal storage, Vivo V30 units in the Philippines get either 256GB or 512GB of UFS 2.2 internal storage. Oh, and yes, the RAM configuration for the 512GB model would also be 12GB. For gaming, it handled games like Honkai Star Rail, Asphalt 9, and Dwayne's personal go-to, Teamfight Tactics with no issues. The phone didn't slow down with graphics-intensive games, but as a warning, the V30 can noticeably heat up with prolonged use, so Genshin fans, take note. Other than that, we would say the phone's pretty solid in the performance department. With its numbers, I'm sure there's a very small margin for apps that it can't run. And speaking of numbers, for those who are interested in our benchmark scores, they should be flashed on screen. So, if there's anything to conclude this with, it's that the V30 will provide end users with exceptional performance. Powering the Vivo V30 is a 5,000 mAh lithium-ion battery and features 80-watt flash charge technology. Charging the battery from 0 to 100% takes about an hour with the included adapter, and about 2 hours with a standard 10-watt charger. In general use, the phone should last you the entire day with different tasks and no major issues. In fact, in PC Mark's Work 3.0 battery test, our review unit lasted 24 hours and 54 minutes, which is one of those up-there results. And in our standard video loop test, the phone was able to last an insane length of 30 hours and 57 minutes. Both tests were conducted in airplane mode at 50% brightness and with volume muted for mixed-use variables. The V30 has a dual nano SIM card slot, which may confuse some end users. To elaborate, it appears like it's a single tray, but users may place each nano SIM on opposite sides. The Vivo V30 also supports 5G connectivity along with Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.4, and NFC support. When it comes to actual call quality and messaging, I would say it's pretty alright. We didn't run into any signal issues, and we were able to make calls and send messages and use data as usual with almost any other phone. So as we wrap this up, I'm sure we have to address the elephant in the room. How much is the Vivo V30? The V30 is available in Vivo's official stores, that's Shopee, Lazada, and TikTok, for 24,999 pesos with 12GB of RAM and 256GB of internal storage. It's also available with 12GB of RAM and 512GB of internal storage for 27,999 pesos in either of the available colors, that is Petals White and Green Sea. Considering its cost, performance, and everything else under the sun, the Vivo V30 is an excellent pickup for 2024. It's got a fairly minimal but unique design language, with software that caters to user experience, and has a solid camera setup that stands out amongst the rest of its features. And when it comes to performance, this phone is no slouch either. Users get a Snapdragon 7 Gen 3 to back this up, paired with a long-lasting 5,000 mAh battery. Additionally, you can dress up your interface as you see fit through accommodating software inclusions. For cons, the phone noticeably heats up in prolonged use. Different colorways have different feeling back panels that may or may not suit the user's preference. But if it were up to us, we'd definitely pick up the Vivo V30 for its camera setup and extremely long-lasting battery life. The pros definitely outweigh the con. And looking at it now, it doesn't seem too overwhelming for what end users could get out of it. So, what do you guys think of the Vivo V30 5G? Again, this is the non-pro variant, the Vivo V30 5G. Which color would you guys get? And would you guys even consider buying these phones for its camera system? Let us know in the comment section below. But if you enjoyed this video or found it informative or educational, or if it helped you make a purchasing decision, be sure to smack that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that bell icon so you get notified of our future uploads. Be sure to visit yugatech.com and follow us on our socials. That is Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok for the latest tech news and reviews. Once again, this has been Miguel, and this was the Vivo V30. And why don't you guys, well, I'll be seeing you guys in the next one.